We'll get the microphone going here. But thanks for coming. We've got an exciting evening planned. Mostly, as Donna pointed out, there's cake. So, indeed. So we're going to go ahead and grab a bite, and while Angie is doing her presentation, we can stuff our face with a little bit of sugar. But I really want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. It's our final for the season, our final meeting for the season. We had a fun few presenters this season. We're always looking for good folks to come and do presentations. So if you know of anybody that we ought to be introduced to, you had to get a great idea from glomming on to some of the garden clubs that have good presenters. So if you saw somebody that we ought to go ahead and invite to come do one for us next season, we're going to be planning that here this summer. So, we're part of the North Carolina Wildlife Federation. Oh, I thought he was like chasing something down. Yeah. So we started the group right here in Squirrel Lake Park. Some of you were here for our Earth Day celebration just a few weeks ago, right here in the park. And we had, I estimate, somewhere between, 800, 900 people that got to come and learn from all sorts of fun groups like Audubon and Matthews Help Center and all these other nonprofits that had really great little exhibits for us to learn from. So if you missed it, don't worry. We'll be doing a very similar thing in October. So we have October 7th already on the calendar for our Kids in Nature Day. And as far as Angie goes, what we're going to be doing tonight, I know that you all read the description of what is to happen, but Angie is a certified wayfinder, and I apologize I don't have your bio in my pocket, but and I did a forest bathing activity with Angie. I don't know, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago. It's been a while. Heather, when was it? It was yeah. All right. So it's been a little while, and so it's fabulous. And so a couple of things that she's going to teach us tonight, I got to incorporate in our very next Earth Day celebration. We had a tree hugging station. We were talking about tree hugging, and so the best part of it is just simply slowing down. And so the kids would come up, and it was under the guise of taking a picture, hugging a tree. And we still have some of those pictures on our website. I mean, just huge smiles on their faces, and they're hugging a tree. But before they would leave, I'd say, hey, just stop for a second and take a look at the bark, and just stare at it for a little bit and see what happens. And the next thing you know, a little camouflaged insect makes itself, visible. That when we move so fast, we just miss it all, right? So that's what we're going to be doing tonight, is kind of slowing down and getting a chance to actually see things that we probably don't pay attention to. So anyway, without further ado, Angie, I look forward to hearing. You're gonna chat for a little bit, and then we're gonna go into the.
All right, hi everybody. Hi. How are we this evening? Happy that the storm or whatever was going on passed. We drove from Gastonia this evening, and it looked very ominous. We were a little scared, and then the wind came, and we were like, I don't know how this is going to go. So, very happy that the weather is cooperating for us. My name is Angie Mattson Stegall, and I am a number of things. But before I completely introduce myself, I wanted to offer a couple of questions for you to think about. And these are meant to make your brain go, I'm sorry, what? So, question number 1. What does it feel like to hear a bird sing? What does it feel like to hear a bird sing? Do you have an answer? What does it feel like? Like a song? Where do you feel it in your body? In your ear. Excellent. Next question. What does it sound like when sunlight touches your face? What does it sound like? when sunlight touches your face.
That's what it sounds like.
Next question. What does rain taste like to the flowers? What does rain taste like to the flowers? And finally, how does the inside of a tree see the world? How does the inside of a tree see the world? These are the kind of things that come to me when I am sitting in the forest. And I am not on drugs. I am simply completely immersed and bathed in my senses. And I am seeing and feeling and hearing and tasting, in some cases, touching, also carefully, listening, sensing. I'm feeling my body. I'm feeling everything that's going on around me. And that is the essence of what we're going to talk about tonight, and what we're going to have a little experience, if you want to. That's what we're going to have an experience of. And so it is called forest bathing. You may have heard the term Shinrin-yoku. That is the Japanese term for forest bathing. And I am a certified forest therapy guide, meaning I am the guide that takes people out into the forest, but the forest is the therapist. The forest is the healer. So how did this whole Shinrin-yoku thing get started? It's actually something that started in the 1980s in Japan. They were having such a tremendous culture of overwork and overwhelm and just unwellness that the ministry in Japan started looking at studies to try and find out what they could do to help their people. And the more they looked, the more they realized that going out into nature had tremendous health benefits. And going out into nature, for most people, is free. And so they created, I think, upwards of between 60 and 70 official forest bathing parks and forests that you can go to in Japan. Some are self-guided, some are interactive, and some have guides just like me. And so it has now come over to the United States, and I am an ANFT forest therapy guide. It was inspired by Shinrin-yoku and forest bathing, but it is just a tiny bit different. We have our own way of doing things, and we'll talk more about that. So who am I? Certified Forest Therapy Guide. I am a Martha Beck Wayfinder Certified Life Coach. That is my work full time. I have a bachelor's degree in organizational communications from Queens up the road here. I've run my own business since 2003, working in consulting and coaching pretty much the whole time. And my work is about helping people rediscover themselves, especially after they get lost in the corporate grind or they get worn to a nub running their own business. We lose ourselves in the hustle, in the 24/7, in the constant go that is our culture. And people find me when they're ready to actually slow down a little bit. And sometimes I slow down, uncomfortably so for people. And it is a beautiful, beautiful practice. I have written a bunch of books. I did not bring them all tonight, but my most recent one is called Notes from Nature. You can find it on Amazon. It is actually a lovely introduction to taking yourself out into nature and realizing you have this beautiful body. And it does amazing things. And listening to it and paying attention to it is the most amazing experience. So, why do we need forest bathing? Why do we need forest therapy? So, a couple of facts that might interest you. A 2015 study found that work-related stress accounts for up to $190 billion in healthcare costs. Stress is a killer. Stress is a killer. We spend up to 10 hours a day in front of our screens, and I think since the pandemic, that number is probably higher. We are always connected to other people and to these little screens that give us constant, overwhelming, never-ending information. We have less access to green spaces, especially people who live in cities. And we forget that we actually are nature, and we need to be out in nature. And all the concrete and asphalt and steel and buildings, and whew, they smush us. Hardly anybody walks barefoot anymore. And there is a growing science that grounding yourself, taking your shoes off, and standing in the dirt, in the sand, in the lawn, in the pine needles, actually discharges electrons into the earth and helps your body. A tiny story, I noticed that my cat would get really aggressive over time if I didn't let him outside. And I think it's because he needed to ground his little body in the earth. Only 10% of American teens spend time outside every day. American adults spend 5% of their time outdoors, and that is less time than they spend in their vehicles. Urban scenes send more blood flow to our amygdala, which processes fear and anxiety. So, gazing at buildings, cars, asphalt is not healthy for us. It activates the fear and anxiety center of our brain. So the opposite of that is gazing at green spaces gives us a chance to dial down, to calm our brain, to calm our nervous systems. And I heard this term recently that our brains get tired and they suffer from cerebral congestion. And so going outside and gazing at green spaces and natural things helps us unclog our brains. The amount of study that the Japanese have done around this practice is growing and growing and growing. I have stacks of research that I've gone through on my desk that show the benefits of going out into nature. So what can a 15-minute walk do? Because all of us are busy. Not everyone has 3 hours or 3 days to go outside into nature. Uh-oh. Regroup.
Just make sure I want some more
I know. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah.
All right. So as we prep for an invitation to go out and experience forest therapy, I just want to share a little bit more science with you. Just a few bullet points. So, 15 minutes walking in nature. Here's what has been measured in people's bodies. There is a 16% decrease in the stress hormone cortisol. And us modern people, our cortisol levels are very high. And because we are always in a little bit of stress, we're not like animals who can be stressed or active and then they rest and their cortisol levels go down. We don't do that. But being outside for just 15 minutes, walking or sitting, 16% decrease in the hormone cortisol. There is a 2% drop in blood pressure and a 4% drop in heart rate in just 15 minutes. Being outside in nature boosts your immunity, and they've measured the NK cells, which have to do with your immune system. They're called natural killer cells. And they actually are boosted because when we're out here, the trees know we're here, and they're releasing chemicals called phytoncides, which are essential oils that are in the trees. So we walk near them, and they're releasing essential oils as we walk by in response to us and to each other.
How do they sense us?
How do you sense a tree?
Sight, smell, feeling.
Yeah. What if the more than human world also sees you, smells you, feels you, hears you? Yeah. Yeah.
I know they can like send signals amongst themselves.
Yeah.
And through the soil.
Yeah.
And I think maybe there's things that come out of the leaves that absorb in the stonework or something. Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if there's like a specific chemical we emit that they pick up on.
There are a number of books that have come out recently about the secret life of trees, and they're beginning to talk about how they can measure trees reacting to people walking by, to humans being in the presence of trees.
Just near.
Yeah, just being near them.
Do they do that also with maybe animals?
I am sure they could, because animals often know that we're around far, far before we do, because their smelling is better, their hearing is better, their sensing is just more advanced than ours is. Yeah. So, I'm not going to go into this too much, but there is a story in my book about how I had a conversation with a rock. It was a very large boulder. We were in Alaska, and my husband and I were walking on the beach, and he started talking about framing up a picture. And then he said, and if you step back and you include this large boulder in the picture, see how much nicer the picture is? And in its own way, the rock started communicating with me its pleasure at being noticed. I was also not on drugs when that happened. But I was telling my husband, who's standing back there with the big camera, that this was happening, and I said, this rock is very pleased that you noticed it, and it's almost like, thank you, and it was preening a little bit and just very happy to be included in the whole conversation. So I'm just saying, the more you forest bathe, the more interesting things you notice, potentially. All right. And then one of the things that I love is being out in nature measurably increases your capacity for happiness, empathy, and creativity. And who doesn't want to feel at least less stressed, more happy, more empathetic, and kind toward one another? Right? So, forest bathing is generally a 3-hour experience. I know, it sounds like a long time, but it goes by in a flash when you really get in it. So, the standard sequence of forest bathing is we do an introduction, much shorter than this, but just to give you an idea of what forest bathing is, who I am, what we're going to do. And then we move into pleasures of presence, which is what we're going to do tonight, if you want to. And then I lead you through what are called a series of invitations. And I love forest bathing, forest therapy so much because every single thing is invitational. And I tell everybody right at the beginning, I'm going to offer you an invitation. Something like, go out and wander. Find a being that catches your attention. Stand with it. Sit with it. See if it has stories to tell you. Maybe you have stories you want to tell it. And then you are completely at choice to try the invitation to interact with a being that catches your attention, or you might feel like doing something completely different, or you might feel like doing nothing at all. I've had people lay down for the entire forest bathing experience, and that is totally fine. You are at choice for all of it. So over the course of 3 hours, we might do 5 to 6 invitations of different kinds, engaging your senses, either all of them or one specific one at a time, listening, seeing, smelling. Tasting is harder. Touching, also with caution sometimes. And then we end with a tea circle. And if I'm in an area where I know that I can harvest plants that I know 110% are safe, like pine or something like that, dandelion, then we will make tea from something in the area. And if not, then I will bring tea with me, and we'll have a circle, and we'll sit and end together. And I brought my little teacups so you can see our tea. And they're just little tiny cups that we share tea together. So, in between each of the invitations, we have a little talking stick. And again, because everything is invitational, if you want to share, you can share. If you do not want to share, you don't have to share. You can be quiet for the whole thing if that pleases you. All right. Sometimes we use props. Sometimes I'll have you put this on the ground and have you look in this square for 15 minutes. And it is amazing. Last year I sat with this for 15 minutes, and it took me 11 minutes to realize there were 2 blue flowers in the center. I just didn't see them until I saw them. So that's really fun. All right. Questions about forest bathing?
Where was your training?
So interestingly, my training was online. I know, it was a 6-month-long training. It was once a week. We had forest bathing practice with each other. We had forest bathing that our instructors led. And then we had a 4-day immersion where we all got together, at least in my cohort, we all got together and practiced the art of forest bathing. Good question. Thank you. Other questions? Yeah.
So, what does your training have to say about managing the forest?
So that is outside the scope of our training. We are simply being in the presence of the forest. And sometimes we'll talk about wild tending, but this is not forestry management. This is not gardening. This is not even a nature walk. We're not even identifying plants and animals or bugs or anything like that. We're just simply being with them. Good question. Other questions? Yeah?
What's the youngest age that you've done it with?
Oh, goodness. I have not forest bathed with a lot of kids. I think probably the youngest is maybe a 10-year-old. Yeah, mostly I'm forest bathing with adults. So, yeah. Good question. Other questions? All right. Yeah?
What's your favorite bird?
My favorite bird. I would say hawks are very much in my, and I'm not pandering to the crowd here, honestly. I see hawks almost every single day. Sometimes when I'm coaching clients, hawks will interact with us in different ways during calls, and there's always a message there, so I really have a fondness for hawks in general. Mostly red tails in our backyard, but yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted to mention something. I was waiting to the end of Angie's presentation to mention. So Mother's Day weekend is coming upon us just in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So that is Mother's Day is the 14th, a Sunday. On Saturday, the 13th, we're going to be doing a 3-hour forest bathing experience over at Purser-Hulsey Park. So if anybody wants to come and have a nice early morning on that Saturday, and you'll be in definitely a Zen moment or mindset after that. So that's going to be, we're going to meet around 8:30. It'll start at 9 and it'll go till noon. So that's going to be over at Purser-Hulsey. I always get the names backwards, but Purser-Hulsey Park over in Matthews. So we're going to go ahead and post it on our Facebook and all that kind of stuff here shortly. But if you want more information, you just come to me. It'll be $43, $44, something like that. And the best part is that we're going to have, they don't have porta potties or a bathroom at Purser-Hulsey Park. So we're going to have a camping bathroom. So you get even that experience if you've never done that before. So if you need it. So anyway, all right. We're going to go ahead and do a little demonstration of this.
Yeah.
So if you want to stick around and be with us with this, Angie's going to go ahead and lead us.
Yeah.
And for me, I know the biggest challenge that I've had and quite transformation in my experience was that you get to say nothing and be quiet during it, which is definitely not my style. So they're witnesses of that. So that was really amazing to me. So you get to enjoy that too.
Rendering people speechless is wonderful. Or just telling them they can't talk. All right, so if you do not want to join us, that is 100% okay. No harm, no foul. If you do want to join us, we're going to take a little walk over into the woods. Hi there. All right. I'm going to leave all that right there. Take that. That. Let me take a picture of your book if you don't mind. That way I can remember it later. Thanks. All right. So if you do want to have a little taster, let's meet right where that little dirt path is right there.
How are you? Yes. Do you mind holding? Yeah, just gently like that, and then being near her. Get that, please.
Oh, you're going to carry that? It's going to be a lot of quiet. All right, so forest bathing. What we're going to do is we're going to walk up this path, hang a little bit of a left, and then walk up to the right into the woods. There is disc golf, like little, basket. I guess that's what they're called. And we're going to circle up in that area. So I'm going to invite you to not talk to each other. If you want to talk to the trees while we're walking, that's cool. I'm good with that. But consider now the beginning of this forest bathing experience. If you think you're going to need to sit for some of it and you want a pad, I'm happy to share these with anybody if you want one. Because we will be 20 minutes, and so some people are not happy to stand that long. So, all right, I'll have them with me. All right, so we'll do about 20 minutes, and what I'm going to share with you is called Pleasures of Presence. And we're going to engage a lot, if not all, of your senses during that 20 minutes. And then at the end, we will circle up. And my question will be something interesting. I'll share it with you at the end. All right, before we wander in, Does anyone have any questions, concerns?
Just watch out for poison ivy.
Yeah.
That would be the only,
Yep.
only thing you need to avoid
Yep.
over here.
Yep. So in an official forest therapy experience, we would talk about hazards. So definitely poison ivy. If you don't know what that looks like, leaves of 3, shiny, let it be. Don't touch the green things. I would say don't touch anything that's ropey up around the trees that's fuzzy. Like that. There can be ticks out here. It's nature. So when you get home tonight, just have a quick look. Make sure ticks. And then snakes. It's springtime. Things are happening. But they're here too. They don't care about us. So just be aware. That's it. Any other questions, concerns? All right. So I'm going to lead us up there. My husband Nelson is always my sweep when we have a big crew. If you have any troubles of any kind, he's the guy to see. All right. Here we go.
Pertaining to the wall.
Right, that's right.
He's
He's also my comedian.
Bitten by a copperhead, we go see.
Right. All right. Here we go. So if I'm standing here and you're standing where you are, can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, all right. So let yourself arrive here. Sometimes we leave parts of ourselves in the past, or our brains are already later this evening or tomorrow or sometime in the future. So just let yourself arrive in among these trees with the more than human world and the humans that are here with us today. You might notice your breath from that tiny little uphill. There's definitely a couple of birdies with us for this experience. So I'm going to invite you to make sure that you're standing somewhere that feels comfortable to you. And if you want to sit down, I'm going to invite you just to go ahead and plop right down wherever it feels good to you. That is within the sound of my voice. So make yourself as comfortable as you can be for this 20-minute experience. So as you're settling in, again, just notice the experience of breathing. You have this body and these lungs. Just notice. Noticing again this thing called your body. And I wonder what it's like to have this thing called a body. And as you're noticing this body, I'm going to invite you to close your eyes if that feels safe and comfortable for you. And if it doesn't, a low gaze down to the ground, eyes half closed, might feel more comfortable. So with your eyes closed, or this low half gaze, notice your body one more time. Maybe do a scan from head to toe, or from your toes up to your head. And if there's any areas of tension or uncomfortableness, or if a part of your body asks for a little bit of movement or readjustment, give that to your body if it feels good. So I'd like to invite you to bring your attention to your feet. Whether you're laying down, sitting down, or standing. Just notice these feet that move you. Maybe shift those feet even if you're standing. Just shift your weight on your feet, just noticing, look at that. I've got feet. How often do we think about our feet? Our feet can be our connection to the earth. And so if the visualization feels interesting to you, perhaps imagine that you have these roots coming out of your feet, whether it's the bottoms or your heels, the tops of your feet, moving down into the earth. Imagine these roots sinking through the leaf litter, through the topsoil, and farther down, down, down. And as they're sinking in, you might notice or imagine that there is an aliveness to these roots. They might be interacting with tree roots and other more than human world beings under the earth. And as you're interacting with these roots, allow them to ground you in the here and the now. With the grounding of your feet into this earth underneath us, I'm going to invite you to move your attention to your skin. I wonder what sensations you are experiencing on your skin, around your skin. You might, as you bring your attention there, feel sensations under your skin. Just take a few moments noticing. Next, I want to invite you to notice your hands. You might hold them out in front of you, still with your eyes closed. And notice what you sense about these hands of yours. And if you cup your hands, I wonder if you can feel the air settling down into your cupped hands. It might even be that the air is sensing you. Next, you might move your hands together and let your skin touch your own skin. What does it feel like when your skin touches your own skin? It might be rough or smooth, warm or cold. Just notice that sensation or that grouping of sensations. Next, you might let those hands rub a piece of your clothing or touch your hair or even feel a piece of your jewelry. And notice the difference between skin on skin of your hands and hair and fabric and jewelry. There might be another texture around you that you could touch with your hands. It might be a tree that you're sitting up against or laying on. It could be the leaf litter right below you. And if you gather up that leaf litter or stroke the bark of that tree, what are you noticing as you interact? How does it feel to hold a tree or to hold a whole forest in your hands? Let's move our attention to our noses. These amazing noses. And if you're holding a bit of leaf litter in your hand, maybe bring that to your nose and smell the forest. Or if you're near a tree and can turn yourself and smell a tree. And if you're not close to any of that, when was the last time you smelled the skin on your hand? I wonder what that smells like. Our sense of smell is very connected to our sense of taste. And I'll invite you to imagine that you've got a straw. And you put the straw in your mouth and you breathe in. I wonder what you might taste when you breathe in the forest that way. You might taste the delicious cake that we had, some coffee that you drank earlier. You might taste the dirt that's in the air. Just let it be a noticing. Whatever you notice is just right. And now with your eyes still closed, I'll invite you to bring your attention to your ears. What is the music of this place? You might listen for sounds above you, behind you, maybe even underneath you. If you've been sitting, I'd like to invite you to go ahead and stand, and you can do this with your eyes open. So do it carefully. You've been sitting for a minute. You can stay right where you are. So just notice your body as you're readjusting and moving. What I'd like to invite you to do now is turn your body in a circle carefully with your eyes closed, and keep turning carefully until your body says, stop. This is where I want to be. So let your body guide you to something. Once your body has found its place, I want to invite you to put your hands on your body in a way that feels good to you. And still with your eyes closed, I wonder what your body is noticing. What might it be reaching for where it stopped? And as you're standing here in this body, I want to invite you to notice your heart. If it feels good to move your hands to your heart, go ahead and do that. I wonder what your heart beats for. And in just a minute, I'm going to invite you to open your eyes again, but don't do it just yet. When I invite you to open your eyes, I want you to do it really slowly, like opening a curtain or unfurling drapes, very slowly. Maybe it's a soft, low gaze down to the ground first, then half lids, then all the way open. And I'd like to invite you to consider that maybe everything you are seeing is seeing you too. And whenever you feel ready, go ahead and slowly open your eyes. If you're noticing something pleasurable, just allow it in. Just be here, now, in this place, in this body, in this moment. Take a few nice breaths. And then when you feel ready, let's go ahead and circle up. So again, everything is invitational. If you want to share, absolutely feel free to share. And the question at the end of invitations is always, what are you noticing? And since it is getting late, brevity is a beautiful thing. What are you noticing? Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Waiting for that owl
Me too.
All the road sounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was noticing that my dog was even relaxing.
Yeah.
She's bathing too.
Yeah.
I'm just noticing how I feel good when I'm here.
I did kind of feel my brain shut down a little bit.
Yeah.
That was nice for me.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Because the hour is late and everyone needs to go home, thank you for being willing to try this thing called forest bathing. That was maybe a minute more than 20 minutes. If you're interested in trying this for the full 3 hours, and you can join us on May the 13th, we would love to have you. Daniel's going to send out the link for registration, and we would love to see you for a longer experience. Thank everybody.
Thank you. For that one, should we bring like